All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back from the beach. We got another review show. We held it off so I could show you guys this lineup. My guy, Nades, the chat's got me rolling here early on. Someone said cleaned up his tears from the showing at the King of the Beach, writing those checks. Yeah, we will have some giveaways. We'll still talk about that. The hangover is real, part of it maybe. But either way, excited. Want to say first off, thank you to everybody. Appreciate all the support. Had a great time down at King of the Beach, got to meet some members, got to meet some old friends, some new friends, make new friends, have a good time. Lots of really good support. Not the outcome that we were looking for on my end, but others had good ones, and I'll go through some of those. I'll break down my lineup, show you all of that. We'll do the normal, breaking down the perfect lineup, look at the $20 Millie Maker, some of the stuff that came off of that. But Nades, we're back, man. It's going on, week 12 here now. Early Thanksgiving wishes to all my American friends. It's going to be a great Thanksgiving this week. We got all the content for you guys coming up there, but smash the like. Let's get into it. Nades, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Had a decent Sunday. Had the Trevor Lawrence call. Tambo and or not Tambo, you were at the beach. You weren't on the show, but Title, Hoop, and our guy Hamwich were saying I was crazy. I said Trevor Lawrence 25-30. Well, I undershot that. He posted a 32 burger, and we'll see a lot of Trevor Lawrence on this review show here. Love the spot for him. I went to Christian Kirk in my stack with him, so didn't get there, but I had Ridley mini stacks and stuff like that in my other builds. Was pretty hurtful. Not building multiple Trevor Lawrence stacks when I did post my core for the members over there. But hey, that's the nature of the beast. Tank Dell just continues to absolutely smash. Overall, I mean, interesting week by far. Had some great calls, just didn't put it all together. But I see we had another amazing night last night and another amazing week 11. So looking to keep it rolling. Thanksgiving this week, nothing better than stuffing your face, eating all the food, all the sweets, all the desserts, and watching football all day to get away from those annoying cousins and stuff running around the house. So it's a good time. I
love me some American Thanksgiving. I live vicariously through everybody, all my friends and pals and everyone down there. So I'm going to enjoy it again. We're going to have full content coverage for you guys over at SHIPIT Nation. So you'll be able to get all the content as usual for the 3-game slate tomorrow. We will have, so I'll do the first look show with DGen here in an hour and 45 minutes or so. We'll do that. Then tomorrow we'll have, I think it's, where's my calendar here? It is 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Hoop, Title, myself on the Mail Media Network, breaking it down. Richie, there is a Canadian Thanksgiving. It's in October. Same. We eat turkey, you do all that, just don't have all the football all day to go with it. So it's not as fun. But yeah, we're going to be back. We got all the content coverage for this week. Then Friday, there's the Black Friday game. We'll have a show early morning, I think 10 a.m. Eastern for that one on the Mail Media Network. So there's a lot of good content coming down the pipeline. It's going to be a fun week ahead. And shout out, like you said, some just continue to crush last night. Our guy, Mark F, won the Mega Milli. He also won the 222 for 100K with the single bullet. So 1.1 million last night on his single bullet mega ticket and 222. So congrats to him. Huge night. And the first guy in there to congratulate scored. Always fun. Good group of people we've got. Was our guy D-Dry, who won the Millie for himself just a few weeks ago. So congrats to those guys. D-Dry, by the way, shipped the main slate last night himself, too. I think it was 47K up top. So just lots of good stuff going on. Is my mic is, or you notice it? Someone said,
your mic is like cutting out a little bit, but
I'll test it. Keep an eye on it.
It's skipping. It was skipping a little bit. We'll just keep an eye on it.
Okay. We can go to sharing this stuff anyway then. So just give me a second here. I'm going to pull it up. Let's go here. Present. You talked about it, right? You mentioned the Ridley stack with Lawrence. So interestingly enough, my lineup I liked outside of what I ended up going with was a Lawrence lineup, but it wouldn't have got there anyway for me because I went Kirk over Ridley. It was interesting. There was a stat that came out on Sunday that basically showed that with Zay Jones back, Ridley somehow done better, even though that usually doesn't seem to usually that's not the case when you see it. But in this case, it was something that had come out. But here's the lineup names. You got Lawrence, Ridley, Warren, Barkley. We're going to talk about the Barkley Giants thing, but Shakir and Warren kind of just get thrown in there. The other plays all seem to make a lot of sense. And you got two 49ers in here with no Purdy. And I know other people saw lineups with Purdy and nobody stacked with them that still did good. So lots of conversation around that. We'll get to it. What's your thoughts here on the perfect lineup?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, obviously, perfect lineup leaves $700 on the table. You're probably not getting to something this exact build, but you can get to something similar because Devin Singletary, right? You have $700 left over. You have $200 easily to go up to Devin Singletary to make more sense, right? Do the little combo pack there. Tank Dell, Devin Singletary for the rows, underpriced, basically. For everything. I mean, you get the combo packs there at just over 10K, 11K for basically a piece of their entire offense. You get the goal line, and you get the guy that's been absolutely nuking ever since CJ Stroud has gone on this MVP candidate tear here. You could also go to Brock Purdy, right, with the double stack there. But I think it's fine. I mean, that game was the game that everyone liked in the afternoon, right? A lot of people were going to that game. 49ers just flipped the switch, right, and turned it on. But once we review the $20 Millie Maker, I mean, you would have left a couple points on the table going from Trevor Lawrence to Brock Purdy for $200 cheaper. But it would have probably made more sense with the Ayuk and Kittle double stack. And then Ridley can just add his price point, right? He is basically still a big piece of that. I did see that note as well with Ridley, and I was talking to our guy Hamwich after him and I did the Sunday Night Football breakdown, and I said, "What's your takes on Ridley?" And he said, "Ridley's going to nuke." So I don't know if he was holding out on us or what, but I took that nugget and played some Ridley in my other stuff. Unfortunately, didn't pair it with Trevor Lawrence, but overall, I mean, this build is fine. Shakir is an interesting piece. I did look into Shakir. He's gotten 60% of the snaps over the last 4 weeks, targets in all of those games over the last 4 weeks, and he was a pivot off of those chalk Arizona guys. So I see some people, the $20 Millie Maker got to a guy like Shakir and faded all those Arizona pieces that everybody was going to, right? The Trey McBrides, which he did all right, but he wasn't needed at his price. And then the Rondale Moores, those cheap Arizona wide receivers. So the Shakir play is actually pretty smart. You want to call it lucky, you can call it what it is, but he has gotten 60% of the snaps. There's leverage built into that in a game where you expect Buffalo to be throwing the ball against the Jets.
Yeah, I hope this isn't staying this way. I just checked it on my end and I didn't see it, but do you still notice it, Nades, with the mic? He said it was lagging and then skipping and chopping, but when I watch it back on my side and play it back, it did not.
Yeah, I'm catching it. It's doing it for you. So I don't know if you want to unplug your mic or replug it in or what, or maybe it's.
I think if I just leave studio and come back in, I can do that, right? You can just talk for a second. I'll just do that.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So as we see, right, the perfect lineup, once he throws it back up on the screen, the Trevor Lawrence, right, Ridley single stack, obviously that was needed. If you had that, you probably had a pretty great week overall. But in that perfect lineup, right, with the Ayuk, George Kittle, throwing Brock Purdy in there, $200 probably is where I would have went personally. Makes more sense. Obviously, yeah, he didn't get to 32 points, but he got the 29 points. So you left a couple points on the table. Still would have scored up in the 240s. Which was good. Brian Robinson probably could have slotted into one of your running back spots as well. Saquon Barkley, Giants defense correlation on that perfect lineup was pretty interesting. I know our guy Hamwich in the chat was all over the Saquon Barkley take overall on the Mayo Media Network show with Title and Hoop when he broke that down, just because the volume is constantly there for Saquon Barkley, even in tough matchups, right? Like against Washington here. I mean, he got 14 carries, 5 targets. He was just, I mean, he's just the guy in that offense. They don't really have another playmaker. So Saquon Barkley at 7,100 with his workload that he gets week after week. I get it. It's not the greatest matchup, but the interesting point is it's on the other side of the chalk, right? Everyone wanted to play Brian Robinson. You pay up on the other side of that game. What if the game script does flip, right? We talk about that all the time. Game script flipping with the Saquon Barkley, Brian Robinson take. I know Tambo talks about that all the time. So that was an interesting piece as well because everyone wanted to play those commanders. Commander stacks people were playing Sam Howell, commander stacks. I know Tambo will talk about that in a little bit, reviewing King of the Beach. So flipping the game script there, going to Saquon Barkley, Giants defense was also an interesting take. And that showed up on the optimal lineup here. Now it's not picking up your mic at all. Tim was about to smash his setup. Nothing worse than he hates technology issues going on here. Sorry, chat. Bear with us here. I'll keep talking through it here as best as we can. Apologize for the mix-ups here, but he's trying to work through it. But yeah, that Saquon Barkley Giants defense correlation I really liked, and then obviously Tank Dell just fits the piece there. Tank Dell was obviously chalk for a reason. 5,900 wide receiver number one in a game that everybody wanted to play, that Houston game. People were stacking that game up. Obviously it underwhelmed a little bit, but Tank Dell, Devin Singletary still got there. So not too much more to talk about on the perfect lineup. I don't have the screen share ready here. We'll wait for Tambo to get back. Yeah, Tambo's mic is drunk. Canadian Wi-Fi. Chad is just ripping on Tambo here. He's gonna fire back once he gets back on here. Check those gigabytes. Yeah, him, which he always throws those gigabytes up on the screen. But I'll jump into the $20 Millie Maker. I don't have it up on the screen here, but I'll just talk through it. The $20 Millie Maker winner, Brock Purdy. It was Brock Purdy's naked. So this guy, Jay Russell, 1025, had a single bullet in the $20 Millie, won it. And it's a pretty interesting lineup here. He did Brock Purdy naked with no stacks, no run backs, nothing. He did the Devin Singletary Tank Dell combination. He did the Shakir Dalton Kincaid combination. And then it went DJ Moore, Brian Robinson, Dallas defense. So overall, I mean, very, very interesting build. It scored 215. So it was about 40 points. 30 points away from what the optimal lineup was here. And first thing that stands out to me is the Brock Purdy naked. I don't know if I get there. And if the Shakir and Dalton Kincaid combo pack, I did like Dalton Kincaid quite a bit. At the looks like Tambo's back. Are you back?
Are we back though? Testing. One,
we're
two.
Good. Holy cow, we're good.
Jeez, man.
This guy.
What a way to come back. I apologize.
You're good, though. The mic's crystal clear. It worked. Whatever you did, it has worked.
All right, let's get this show on the road here. Let's fix this up. I apologize again. We're going to get this right. Hopefully, we're back. But where did you leave off? Because I just had one take on this one that I'm going to apply to the other stuff. But
yeah, just jump on Giants that. And then, I just jumped down to the $20 Millie Maker. But I talked on the Barkley when you were coming in. The Barkley defense in the Giants defense stack on the other side of the Brian Robinson and Washington offense that everybody wanted to go to is where I was going with it. Yeah,
definitely that. Like that was the angle for it. And we'll show it in a second because when you get to my King of the Beach lineup, there's a portion of that as well. But funny enough, I remember this perfectly, and it's two-pronged. I'll talk to when I get to my lineup, but I definitely said this last week with Degenerate 75. I said, it's crazy to me that it's a 10-point spread. I was like, this is the spot where the Giants are going to show up because everyone's playing Washington in the survivor pools and all this stuff. It just ends up being one of those spots just absolutely crushes. So that hurt a lot of people, but going the opposite side of it was definitely a way to do it. You're talking about this one, right? Jay Russell?
Yeah, the Purdy naked stack, and people are saying it's a cash lineup. Other people are saying they had naked Purdy as well in there and stuff. Personally, that's just not how I build, but I was just kind of talking through it on how you come to something like this personally.
I think like it's already where you're off though, like Dallas D, not you, like other, like the Shakir, Kincaid, Dallas D all weren't necessarily in play there. Like the rest of the plays, you could say, okay, people were playing these guys. Obviously, DJ Moore got late love. Tyreek made a ton of sense as a pay up option, him or CMC in this last spot. And this guy went with Tyreek Hill, but CMC fit for the same money. So you see all that, but the Purdy not being stacked is just a price play, right? People are just going with it, but it was kind of funny because when you go back here and saw this, it was Ayuk and Kittle with no Purdy, but Purdy got 29.72 to the 32. You could have just left the money on the table and called that a 49K lineup. It's basically the same thing, but just trying to mix it around. But weeks like this where you have, some of these plays, you're going to see lineups where people go off the wall a little bit, and this was definitely one of them. So the Washington thing I'll talk about, but like Washington was Robinson. Not much else there. Shakir, I think, is just off the wall. Him and Kincaid just plug in from wherever. But the two Houston guys, San Francisco, no stack. Like you see it here, team stack, but no game stack, no pass catcher, no bring back. This one doesn't matter, but you don't see these ones be X's very often in these winning lineups. So do you have anything else you want to add on this one before we get to some of these breakdowns?
Just switch it. Yeah, just switch it over. You're on the perfect lineup. So, but yeah, no, I think we talked through it. Pretty good. The Shakir thing, I actually think the Shakir play is pretty interesting. Like I said, I talked about the snaps over the last 4 weeks, and it's also in a field like this where you're facing 177,000 other people. You already know everyone is going to that Houston, Arizona game, right? You grab the two Houston places. Most people in that wide receiver spot right there are going to go to a guy, one of those Arizona run backs, right? Those cheap guys. In their optimizers and things. So going to a guy like Shakir, who's been involved the last 4 weeks, getting the snaps at a similar price point at significantly lower ownership, I think is a very, very sharp play. And obviously I looked into that for sure because we saw it on the perfect lineup. Obviously we saw it here on the winner. And it definitely made some sense.
Yeah, and you see like right away, the next one is already Purdy, Kittle, Ayuk. Don't need to run it back, but then you still had the Moore, Dell, Singletary type plays. So you could still get the tournament version of it. It just didn't work out by 0.1, but this lineup was built more like what you would usually see traditional build, just didn't end up getting to that top spot, right? That's the real difference maker. And I mean, you could have had the $200 there and the $200 down there, and I'm sure there was something between those Ds at the bottom and the Lawrence play that still would have been a Lawrence Ridley stack with these, just like on the perfect lineup where it was Ayuk and Kittle, but with Lawrence and Ridley. So it's very similar type build from there. Anything else you want to add on this one? If not, let's move on. People want to talk. We'll go to the King of the Beach lineup. I'll show you my lineup here. And so let me zoom it in. This was the build. Definitely played to win. Like this was something about it. So just to preface it or whatever you will, like from the top, we did the math. I think it was Saturday. We were all sitting around the pool, some other guys and girls that are in the tournament, and saying like, listen, what's the actual number? So I think there was 13 people had 29 of the lineups, meaning the people that had 3, the people that had 2. We knew where the chalk was at, right? We knew Brian Robinson was going to be super chalky. We knew Singletary was going to be super chalky. We knew Rondale Moore was going to be super chalky. We knew pretty much you had the build of what was going on. And in the past, I've said this, and it just didn't work out, but I was saying in this case, if that's the case, and you know that these 13 people already have almost half the lineups in the field, somebody's going to have these versions that are so close. Now, I'm not going way off the board here. You'll see the lineup. You can already see it there now. But maybe I'll just build a little bit differently. So turning the cards over on Sunday morning, I was extremely happy to have Howell at 6% owned. I think it was Yoda Cow, me, and one other person in a tournament where Robinson was like 44 or 42% or something. So when you have that type of leverage right out of the gate, I'm extremely happy. There's no late swap. Someone mentioned that's true. No late swap going in, but I would have thought more people would have leveraged the Robinson situation if not playing it. That was my big stand. It didn't work. Robinson got 20. Samuel got ejected. Thomas fumbled on his second catch of the game and then ended up still getting a few points, but little things like that matter. But what this allowed me to do is I go Howell, Samuel, Thomas. I'll talk about that Barkley piece because that's why I brought it up. I definitely thought that this could be a back and forth game. And then someone said, well, then why didn't you think to play Barkley? But it was, I still liked McCaffrey that much more. And you just said, we've seen this in the past plenty of times. You don't need to run it back in the case where what if, here's an example. In some of my other lineups, I had Howell with Samuel, Thomas, the Commanders D, and Robinson. Like in some of these higher dollar, smaller field things, I was running 5-man onslaughts that did include Robinson and the defense. I thought it might be a little bit too aggressive for this one and didn't really want to be as Washington heavy. But I definitely knew that if I was off him, forcing Barkley in could have made sense and would based on what I just said. But I knew there was ways that it also could have been Washington crushing them and it just not being Robinson and instead being the passing game. So that's why I felt confident in this. I wanted that. The other guy here was Marquise Brown. I know you still see 17 and we just looked at like the $20 milli maker. So you think chalk. But just to say this was the other angle. Dell was 60% on the opposite side of him for $600 more. Speaking of more, Rondale Moore was $2,000 less and 52% owned. So this was another like double lever where I was looking at, like, I want to get Marquise Brown for a piece with McBride and with Singletary to still get action in that game, but not be on the two most popular of Tank Dell and Rondale Moore. So that's where Marquise Brown came in. I thought with McCaffrey, St. Brown, it was worth it that if those guys have the big games for me, that's going to be my outliers. Like 22 and 16 for this, as you'll see in a second. Let me see if I can pull it up here now. Yeah, Dirty K won this thing, blew everybody out with 211 points. Great dude, got to meet him after. Congrats again to him. But like 62, we had the same. 37 Dell, 38 DJ Moore, 58 Singletary, we had the same. He still got unique in other places, but you can see that there was some lineups. Here's another one. My guy MJ Chan, and I'll show you more on his lineup in a sec. He won 150K. 22, 38, 58, 22, 37, 38, 17, 62, 17. Like, you could get there with the chalk on Sunday. Just you had to put it together correctly. And Nades, I'll let you take over in a second, but I just want to show off one thing. The double tight end was to fit McCaffrey, St. Brown, some extra pieces like Marquise, who I just talked about, and the reasoning behind it. But if you look here, I was just laughing about this because afterwards, my guy MJ Chan, he was showing me his lineup. He had the double tight end with McBride. He had the Dolphins. He had St. Brown. He had Singletary. Like we had four of these same people in the lineup here. And then it was just the Fields, Kmet, Moore run back with Robinson, as opposed to me going Howell, Samuel, Thomas, leveraging the Robinson play, but getting to McCaffrey and Brown. Like, you know what I mean? You can be that close that you can get to it where that's the game changer of 150,000 versus 4,000 and not cashing for anything beyond the minimum in this case. So hop in, Nades. You go ahead, your thoughts on it, but just trying to show you that so you guys could see it. But we're not pulling up every lineup. There's a 75 we could go through. Speaking of another really good lineup out there, my guy Dwayne, excellent to see him once again. He was hovering up there. He still had a great finish. I think it was like a top 11 or 12, might have just been outside the picture there, dropped a little bit late, but he got to see his Giants smash and he got to have a pretty decent score on the day with his Stroud stack. But go ahead, Nate, hop in.
Yeah, overall, I mean, I think it's a good build. There's leverage built into it, right? You're also building for the contest size you're in, right? You're facing 75 other people. You have one lineup. There's 13. Majority of the field has majority of the entries, right? So you know they're going to have their chalk builds, right? Kind of how you approach it when you had 3 builds or 2 builds last year, right? You have your chalk build, right? If the chalk gets there, you hope to put your chalk build the right way. Well, when you're going in with one bullet, you can't do that approach. So you have to think of how you're going to leverage the field, right? And you know Brian Robinson is going to be massive chalk, so going there. You know Tank Dell, massive chalk. Go with the same game on the other side, right? And then you use the Singletary and Trey McBride blockers because you know if those guys get you, if they go off, it's not gonna win you. But if they go off and you don't have them, you're gonna be dead. So you just put those two in there to be blockers, and you're gonna trust your other spots in your lineup to be different and also leverage. So like the way you approached it. Obviously it didn't work out, but hey, that's just the nature of the beast, and sometimes it doesn't always work out, but when it does, you would have been live at the top for 380 stacks. So overall, a good build. The McCaffrey play definitely interesting. I mean, to get McCaffrey in a field like of 75 people, right, for his workload in a game where you expected it to be competitive at 19%, right, or 16%, only a few people had him. I'll take that any day of the week. So overall, great build.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for too. Like, he was a late hammer as well. Could have played Tyreek and moved pieces around, but then went to the 2 tight end build and decided to go it right with that. But just let me see here for a second. I wanted to see if another.
I like the St. Brown. I played St. Brown a lot too. I really like that St. Brown play. Obviously, he had an okay day, but when guys that are much cheaper than him, like DJ Moore and Tank Dell and stuff, go off and nuke for 30 plus, right? He's not gonna be needed, but
yeah. And I think, like you said, the other thing too is that I only had the 1 seat, so I played it how I would play it with 1 seat. If in this scenario, and I wouldn't change this, so this, or maybe people can learn from this, or I'll go back to it next year, get in a similar situation. But when I only have 1, I do want to play to leverage the field. because like I said, I already know 13 people have almost half the seats just between them. Like, so I think that cash, like my cash-ish type lineup, like my more safe build, I think was 164 and would have finished in 6th place. But I think it had no outs to the top. Like it would have needed the perfect outcome of everything else. And you would have been in the same sandwich zone with all these guys. And would I rather collect more money for it? Yes, but it wouldn't have come near Dirty K's lineup. And I liked Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, I played him with Kirk, but I had a similar idea around that type of lineup. So we'll talk about the winners lineup here in a second more in depth. I didn't spend a lot of time on just showing between the breakdowns, but just to show it, I like how they played their lineup. Lawrence Ridley, super low owned. Hopkins as the run back. You're already different enough. And then was able to get like Gibbs in there, but get away, and like Cowboys D, but still get away with McBride and Dell and more at the steamed ownership that he got. And Singletary, the obvious. Like I do, if I had 2 lineups, I would have came in the same place that I did and 6th place if all else played equal, because that was the other lineup that I would have played if I had 2. It happened last year was the same way. I played that style lineup of the 2 lineups last year. My leverage lineup fell down the board. My cash-ish lineup came 6th at King of the Beach last year. It's just all how you look at it and how you want to play. I definitely learned from the World Championship last year in New Orleans, when you realize how many people have multiple seats and are going to have these angles covered. That's where it becomes. Look, Coach had 2 of his lineups up there. Nevs had multiple lineups. JSF was somebody that had 3. Mr. Good Seats was somebody that had 2. Irby had 3. I can tell you for a fact, like almost all these people up here, Breeze Production had 2. So everyone, I think, except the winner, Dirty K, had multiple lineups. And there's nothing wrong with that. They earned them. I mean, it's not like talking bad about it. It's to say that's the point, though. If you got multiple seats, you got more angles to cover. Only really Dirty K got up there with the leverage lineup, and they did it to the point of winning by massive amounts. Like you just blew the field out. The thing from a experience standpoint, I can tell you that was pretty much over after the morning. Like Dirty K's lineup was already ready to go and cooked. And so it was like you just were waiting around to see where people going to move. Some people had more on the line. My guy Dwayne earlier. Shout out to our guy, Lay the House RM, Rob, really good dude. Got to meet him and his significant other. He was there. He had CMC and Garrett Wilson in the afternoon, but he's looking to climb the board, which I wanted him to too. I want to win as much money as possible, but say the 211 was pretty much, it was over. Like this guy was getting there. You needed a lot to happen. He would have needed like 30 from each guy. Could it happen? Sure. But for the majority of the field and the room, you could sense it was over it, right? Like the thing was almost over, just the way the slate set up with all those morning games. So overall, anything to add on this lineup, Nades? I really like this build. It's just not something I got to in this one, but with the Ridley, Lawrence, Hopkins already different enough, and then able to squeeze some other plays in there with some secondary stacks like Gibbs, Moore, McBride, Dell, and get a pay up defense that most people weren't on as well.
Yeah, I had a very similar build. So I played 3 teams, and I was in on all these players. Didn't obviously put them together, but anytime a guy comes 4 points from the $20 Millie Maker with a single lineup in a 75-man field, that's why you see it blowing away the field. I mean, this guy, Dirty K, came 4 points from the $20 Millie Maker that we just looked at in 150 max, 177,000 people entry. So obviously he just hit the stone nuts. Congratulations for him. I'm sure he had an amazing day and all the other stuff he was in as well. Because I'm sure he wasn't just in the King of the Beach there. So congrats to him. Amazing build. And I really like the Trevor Lawrence play. I was talking about it a lot on the in the chat of our show on the Media Media Network. And Hoop said, congratulations, sign out for 15. I said, well, he's getting 25 to 30. So that was a fun little play there. And then I go and check your stuff and I see Tambo. A lot of times you and I are pretty aligned. So usually that's a pretty good sign, but obviously just didn't get there for you.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like you look at it again, like, so even go back to my lineup here. I played Singletary, McBride, and St. Brown, 3 pieces from that game. Even in the winning lineup, he had the 3. He had Singletary, McBride, and Dell. Dell for sure. You needed Dell. Like that was the key for sure. Also, but I think in general, like once you're already different elsewhere, I'm fine with that. But some of the concepts I'm saying were the same, like still in on some of the similar stuff. You just need to get your leverage piece correct. And if you do, you can end up blowing the whole field out. And that's what happened here for Dirty K. Got it with Lawrence, Hopkins on the run back, and Ridley. Just those 3 alone account for like 85, like a bunch of the points here just on those 3. So that's kind of the key. Can get away with that. Obviously, Gibbs putting up 21 is nice. More 22 on the other side, like all that. And then paying up for the D. I think that's fine. Sean said, most expensive D smash 2. Do you think it might be better moving forward to pay way up for defense rather than paying down? No, not necessarily. That's slate dependent. And in something
they
like
got to
this,
pick six late. They got to pick six late in that game too, like late in the fourth quarter. That obviously helped when you get that. But I mean, it's just sometimes, I mean, I've paid up for defense multiple times this year in similar spots, right? Cowboys or whoever it was playing like a Carolina or someone like this, right? That can't move the ball. And I mean, unless they get you that pick six, right? It's tough for them to pay off because look at the Dallas defense, 4,100. That's $1,000 over the 3K Giants defense, right? Which we are $1,100 over the 3K Giants defense, right? So like when you're talking $1,000, $1,200, $1,400 in a slate where pricing is getting sharper week by week, that goes a long way in your lineup sometimes. And defense is the most sporadic position. It's the most unpredictable position. Like we see the Raiders or whoever it was gave up 25 points or almost 30 points and still scored and hit the optimal showdown lineup, right? So like it's just so sporadic. If it fits, it fits. But a lot of times defense, I know Tambo approaches it similar to I do when I MME 20 max, things like that. I put a cap on like 20% of all defenses just because to that extent, it's just you never know, right? People can say they want to have angles or this or that or right backup quarterbacks, things like that obviously boost the chances the defense is going to do good. But at the end of the day, you never know when someone's going to slip and fall and fumble or jump a route and pick six, things like that.
Yeah, there's Rob. Congrats again to Rob. And it was nice meeting you. Awesome stuff. I mean, he still had a good score out of his lineup, which was nice. MYG was there with us. He said exactly. I felt Dell would have been boxed in given the amount of chalk I already had. And Collins had multiple end zone looks with Stroud, just didn't work out. But yeah, and Stroud had all the yards at the half. It was similar. Like I know it's like if this, then that. We always talk about it. But like Marquise Brown had 2 bombs thrown his way. One was picked and one was a passer interference. Like, but there was opportunities. So I'm okay with all that stuff and living and dying on that hill, whatever happens. I did not go way too far off the board that I just felt bad about it. It just did not work out. But like even in this lineup, someone's talking about with the defense, as we just mentioned, I think this defense honestly is just where you. So here's how I would look at it. Like if you land on that defense, then awesome. Use them because they're clearly in a better spot. Like I'd rather get to the Cowboys D if I could. But I can't speak for Dirty K, but I can only speak from like basic DFS 101 type stuff here just looking at it. I can't imagine Cowboys were a priority at all.
No.
Because look, Lawrence, Ridley, Hopkins, Gibbs, Moore, Singletary, McBride, Dell. There's like 3 cogs that set this lineup up to say I'm playing this, I'm playing that, and I'm playing that. Oh, I happen to land on the Cowboys. Okay, might as well play them. Yeah, I'd rather play the Cowboys here versus somebody else that was going to be chalk for 2,300 or 24, 25, 26, whatever it was. But that's where I think a lot of people look at it that way, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like just wherever you land, make your decisions based on that. And then if you want to compare 2v2s to go back and try and figure it out from that standpoint, I'm okay with that as well. I just think for me, I just don't think there was anything where Dirty K said, well, let me get the Cowboys D in here, pay up when no one is, and then see what type of lineup I can get. I mean, it pretty much looks like they were going to land somewhere in that range anyway. So this is just the best version of whatever they landed on. Then they would be good with that. And then I brought MJ Chans up just because there were some pieces there. Like we'll talk in a second, I think, on the 44-44. I don't think they fixed it yet, but we'll go to it anyway.
Yeah, I'm seeing JM George.
Yeah, so see just one sec. Maybe this is as big as I can get it. But yeah, Osimo won this for sure. I know that this shows the Giants D at 21. They finished with 23, and he won it. So congrats to Osimo getting the job done. Another milli maker for him. I think it's his second. I know you laughed about like how much he'd won and like never got a milli for so long, and then he won one. I apologize if it's more than 2, but I know like he made fun of himself for a little while, like how he'd never won the million. And I know this is more than, it's either a second or more. So congrats to him. But his lineup I really liked here was Stroud, Dell, Woods with Singletary, all 4 of them, McBride, Ingram, 2 tight end build, flip it on the Washington guys. The other way to flip it was to play Saquon and the Giants D. So I really like that combo at 3 and 3.5%. And then you land on Tyreek Hill. So pretty nice lineup there overall. I'll let you talk about this one, Nades, but he ran a 4-1 with 2 tight ends. And then his leverage flip, instead of playing the Howell stack, was to go to the Giants D with Barkley. and play against Washington that way. We did just see this last week, by the way. Remember, everyone was on all those Bengals, and the winner had flipped to the Houston D with Singletary before he became chalk again. And then they had Noah Brown in there as well last week.
Yeah, I want to break this one down, or this lineup down right here, using our stack rankings, because you can build this exact lineup right off our stack rankings. CJ Stroud, 5th best stack with Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. Okay, so you don't use Dalton Schultz, but guess who's our 3rd best stack of the day? And their number 1 pass catcher, Evan Ingram. Okay, so you do that. You plug that in there. Trey McBride, number 1 value play on the slate. Stack number 1 with Kyler Murray right there. You can build, you plug that in, right? You go down the board. Who's at the bottom? Tommy DeVito, Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. So if it's not a passing game for the Giants, right, and you're not playing the Sam Howell Commanders build, that's the number 2 stack, right? Well, flip the script. Go to Saquon Barkley and Giants defense down at the bottom, right? And it leaves you with Tyreek Hill. I mean, you build this entire thing. Tyreek Hill still showing up there, kind of middle of the pack, but it's just the last piece, right? And why not throw in a guy like Tyreek Hill who can break the slate? It's been doing it all season long, every single week after week, 150 yards, 200 yards. So, I mean, you could build this entire lineup right off the stacks. That's just another thing that stood out to me right away when I looked at this.
Yeah, lots of weeks we've seen here where you can just basically stick to this top range and dig in from here. And a lot of the plays we saw people use, whether they actually got there themselves or, again, it's stacked by value. Maybe next year our thought was like we could give you multiple value stacks within it. Like, what would the value 2 stack be here? What would the value 3 stack look like? But just this way we do it just to show you guys a baseline. And like Rondale Moore would have been part of this stack, right? If you were talking about going again, you're not using someone from up here, but Ridley would have been part of this stack. Obviously, DJ Moore had a great day. Tank Dell had a great day. Stroud was up there with him. Lawrence was up there with Ridley. Like, all these options that you could have used. Ayuk had a big one there. Amon-Ra, pretty solid day. So a lot. Nakua with Cooper Kupp getting injured. Like, you can see a lot of these guys pop up, and you can just go off of this for your single entries to try and get a build and work one out that you like. So definitely a good call out there. But next year we may add to this so that you can get a couple more angles off of it. But I thought overall pretty solid. Any other lineups that you had in mind that you wanted to check out or look at there? Anything else that you'd seen?
No, overall, I mean, it's just obviously it just goes shows. I know you were on a lot of the plays that are ended up in all these optimal lineups, myself included, but it just obviously it goes back to the puzzle piece, right? You just got to put the puzzle piece together better than anyone else does. And sometimes when you play multiple teams, I play 3 to 5 teams every Sunday. You have all the right pieces, just not together in the same lineup. But when it does hit, it's going to be there. And I'm glad to see a lot of members crushed. The Discord's been flooding with screenshots from every sport. NBA, we continue to smash. NFL last night, another Millie Maker. D-Dry shipped the main. I was in there. I saw D-Dry's logo that lion had there up at the top again, and congratulated him right away in the Discord. And then seeing him in there congratulating Mark F. So amazing community, and we got a nice promo code. I don't know if you want to hit on there, the marketing spiel guy here, Tambo, the wordsmith himself.
Yeah, if you want to get in now, we did launch it just for this week, so you'll be able to go Turkey 20 with Thanksgiving on the horizon. I'll give you $20 off your first month, any plan, just to try it out. Some people said they want to get back in and move from there. So yeah, you can use that code Turkey20 on the site. We just showed it off. You just go to SHIPIT Nation, go to Join the Nation. If you don't believe us, you want to check testimonials first and need more proof, by all means. But all the stuff we offer, the projections for all these sports, and then all the content within the education courses definitely come with your membership as well. So both NFL, NBA, and then of course the Discord. We talk about it all the time. The community is strong. It's a great place to be. There's no back and forth, in there. It's not all just 1v1s, things like that. Lots of good people supporting each other, doing all that. I definitely think it's the place to be if you're trying to get better at your game. MYG fan said if you got a route to get to the defense, great, but unless you have an onslaught build prioritizing it, it's hard to get fixated on a defense, in my opinion. I think he's definitely right there. There was some thought to this, like afterwards. I'm never doing it, obviously, making fun of it more than anything, but it was like funny. I stacked the side with Howell. Could have just stacked it up the other way. DeVito, Barkley, get all those guys in the mix. Would have had a much better lineup. Run it back with somebody on the opposite side, Robinson, and you got yourself a nice lineup there, but not something I would be doing. Definitely feel good about how I played it. Yes, Kevin, King of the Desert is next. So I got one into that. We'll see if we can make it to the finals there, but we're going to be down there. Degen and myself will be on in just over an hour. on this channel talking about the next week up ahead first look and talk more about that as well. But we're definitely going to be down there. And Ross says getting paid $44K a game to get sacked 13 times, still wanting to stand there and sling it. Got to respect it. Yeah, I think it was Slayton. He said, yeah, it was Slayton, had a big game there. He might have got injured later on in that, but definitely something to keep an eye on. And yeah, 1 or 2 tips lower limit can learn from to get them to start growing their bankroll. I think like getting in the Discord is the key. Just if you want to be around that, people can talk to you about different strategies. There's a course that you can take that literally breaks down all this stuff. If you join, you go to NFL, the course, you scroll down to what it's all about. You can go see this all for free on the site, but this talks about creating your own process. What are your goals? What's your mindset that you've got? Bankroll management, cash games. I think definitely, and Rob's in there saying, now play cash, enter as many. Yeah, like definitely. I actually was hanging out with some guys down there that I met at these events a couple times in the past, really sharp dudes, and they were saying they're still playing a ton of cash, and they still think that you can get the edge there, and you can still find enough action to make it worthwhile to really cover off your GPP buy-ins. They were sort of giving me shit a little around that because it's more of laziness than anything else, even though it's not that hard to manage it and enter, but you got to go enter all the contests, keep on top of it. Then you got to look at your late swaps, all that. Normally, I'm so used to now just building for these tournaments, these qualifiers. I've got my own goal and mindset that I've set the season up with that I just don't put enough time into it. So definitely reconsidering that as well. Like Rob said, he said, I played cash on Sunday still. What would your cash team have scored, Rob, if you got time just to throw it in quick out of curiosity? Because I know Rob was just outside this screenshot as well, and his team was good. It had CMC and Garrett Wilson down the stretch. And you see there's not much room, like 158 to 169 is the difference of like 20K or something up to 150K. So right. Rob was really actually one of the people in the room that was sweating, or at least had a sweat until he didn't. But like he had guys left where most people were just standing there hating their lives that they were already done and out, besides Dirty K, who just had to wait around for the inevitable. But anything else?
Yeah, I do want to hit on that Browns because I just see our guy Ross, DTR, right? People were playing that Browns quarterback. I mean, I just didn't understand that play at all. DTR. I just did not understand it at all. Pittsburgh is a good defense, right? Like, why I played Jerome Ford, number one. I played Jerome Ford because my thoughts were, number one, he's cheap. He's off the cheap running backs, right? He scored a touchdown, and he had chances to do more at 5,100 in a good running matchup there. Like, my thoughts were, okay, DTR comes in, right? Yeah, he has some rushing upside. Are they going to just put him in there and expect him to sling the ball 50 times against a defense like Pittsburgh, right? In a divisional game here? I didn't think so. So I really didn't understand that play. I see some people in cash, like Ross, right? People played him just for the salary. Like, I mean, you had quarterbacks like Purdy, right, that were 5,800, Trevor Lawrence 6K, right? Like, you had cheap quarterbacks in much better spots where you know they're proving success. They have all the weapons, everything in underpriced spots as well. So like, I really didn't understand that. I did want to bring that up because I did see that around the industry a little bit as well.
Yeah, he was talking about the $4,500 price tag was why people went there. But to your point, when you could get a guy like Purdy for, I think, what,
5,800? Yeah,
so $1,300 more. That's where you drop down. Or Kyler was right there, 61. Right. Like you had all those options. You just drop down off of somebody else, off the D. That's where Marquise Brown, again, I played him as a double leverage point. I explained it earlier, but again, it was Rondale Moore was way cheaper with no Michael Wilson and Dell on the opposite side. And I didn't want to play all the chalk in that one lineup together. And it could have and should have. But my point was, at least that's why I went there. But in something like cash, I mean, I don't know how many people are playing DTR with Rondale Moore with a cheap defense. So my only point would be somewhere there would have been a spot you could have came down $1,300 to find Purdy money, or $1,500 to find Lawrence money, or $1,600 to find Kyler money. So I definitely think that's the play there. It's something that, again, maybe I should be putting more time into it. Just never been on the docket for things I was looking to do this season, but definitely, still seeing it can work and get behind that. Like I said, my team was 164 with Aaron Jones also getting injured, and it would have been right there in the mix. So I think that's the key. Like he said, they just slam all the chalk. Don't play the DTR play with Elijah Moore, all these things. Like, yeah, people want to make things work. I think it's actually probably more of a tournament angle to get everything else in there and see what happens if you can get a bunch of ceilings out of guys versus cash, where you just already had really good options with high floors and potential ceilings. So like Nate said, in a game against a division rival with Pittsburgh, are they really going to let him do too much, or is he just kind of just do his thing, mosey around it and find a way to get there at the end. That's really what it came down to. So I think that was way more likely if you think about it on paper before going in. Any other final thoughts from you, Nades, before we get out of here? We'll get on to the first look here in an hour, but anything else you want to talk about with reviewing the slate? Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, it was a good week, and another plug for the guy in there, a low stakes player. I'm not a high stakes player by any means. I mean, I played mid stakes, like probably higher stakes than some people, but I was you. I mean, 3 years ago, Tambo knows, right? Like I was watching every show. I haven't been doing content my entire life. Like I just started doing content year and a half, 2 years ago because I've grinded. I've created a process myself. I've listened to other people around the industry like Tambo, right? And I basically consume a lot of information, put my own twist on it, and really doing these review shows help. Going back to Fantasy Labs, their contest dashboard, you can review everyone's. This is what we show. We're not partnered with them or anything, but their tool is just so easy to review what other players are doing. So go to your single entry contest or go to your 3-max contest. See the players that are consistently at the top look at their exposure, see what they're doing, and see how that makes sense into the roster construction and what your thought process was to improve and create a better process. And ultimately, hey, you're not going to win every week. 20% of it, I mean, it takes the top 20% to cash in these GPPs. And it's just all about, you need 1 week to pay off for your entire season most of the times if you play the right way. And that's just, you got to stick to bankroll management, stick to within your means, and continue to learn and adapt as well. You can't just stay consistent in your ways. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Sometimes you have to morph with what the field's doing, what the situation is.
Yeah, that's what we're all about at SHIPIT Nation. Like I said, you can go use the code Turkey20, get in, but it's not like we don't just talk about it, we be about it. You can see it's in the courses, it's in the breakdown, in the Discord. All that is people asking those questions and getting help with them to try and get better. If you're actually trying to get better at the game, this is the place to go check it out. Get involved with the community, work on things, ask questions, get better, and you'll get your turn too. It'll come up. We all have to start somewhere. So definitely appreciate everybody for watching. I appreciate, again, all the support everyone gave me while I was down there for King of the Beach. Shout out to all the other winners this week. Congrats to Mark last night, shipping the Mega Millie. He's going to give away some tickets on the shows this week. He reached out. So lots going on. Don't forget about our sponsor and partner, LineStar. Go to shipitnation.com/LineStar app or go to linestarapp.com. Use promo code SHIPIT to get 10% off. That's going to do it for this one, guys. For Nades, for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.